Israeli armored vehicles and ambulances were seen in the streets of Jenin, in the occupied West Bank on Thursday. According to Associated Press, in the days since a fragile ceasefire took hold in the Gaza Strip, Israel has launched a major military operation in the occupied West Bank, and suspected Jewish settlers have rampaged through 2 Palestinian towns. The violence comes as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu faces domestic pressure from his far-right allies after agreeing to the truce and hostage prisoner exchange with the Hamas militant group. On Thursday, Israeli forces killed 2 Palestinian militants who carried out a deadly attack on a bus in the West Bank earlier this month. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump has rescinded the Biden administration's sanctions against Israelis accused of violence in the territory. At least 9 Palestinians were killed on Tuesday, including a 16-year-old, and 40 were wounded, the Palestinian Health Ministry said. The military said its forces carried out airstrikes and dismantled roadside bombs and hit 10 militants, though it was not clear what that meant. The Palestinians view such operations and the expansion of settlements as ways of cementing Israeli control over the territory, where 3 million Palestinians live under seemingly open-ended Israeli military rule, with the Western-backed Palestinian Authority administering cities and towns.
لفرضه على مخيم جنين، وتحديدا نتحدث عن أنه ليس هناك اشتباكات مسلحة داخل المخيم.
A small group of climate activists expressed their dismay after President Donald Trump's executive order directing the U.S. government to pull out of the Paris Climate Pact again. To see us pull out of the process, it's horrifying. It really is, said U.S. climate activist and Cornell University professor Robert Howarth. Terrible for my country. I'm embarrassed about my country. Terrible for the world. According to Associated Press, the Paris Climate Agreement aims to limit long-term global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, or at least keep temperature rises well under 2 degrees Celsius. Even without the U.S. government, the private sector and countries leading the clean energy transition like China are continuing to work on climate change. The people of the United States remain committed, Howarth said. The states, many of the states in the United States will remain committed, he added, saying the rest of the work remained committed to moving ahead, and we're going to do our best despite this setback.
In a couple minutes.
Warning for us to not listen to the empty promises and not trust on the empty promises, but look at the places where real change is happening. And we see real change is happening. It is happening in terms of renewables worldwide.
Well, it's a setback to have the United States pull out, but most of the rest of the world is going to push ahead. They realize that climate change is critical. The fact that the next COP is in Brazil, I think is tremendously exciting. Brazil is going to show a lot of leadership. I think, although our government in the United States is pulling out, the people of the United States will remain committed. The states, many of the states in the United States will remain committed. So it's a setback. It's terrible for the world to have the US pulled back, but the nation, the world is committed to moving ahead, and we're going to do our best despite this setback. Saying how we can be carbon neutral in our state by 2045, how we can cut our greenhouse gas emissions in half. I'm terribly worried about climate change is the existential crisis of our lifetimes, and all of the nations of the world need to proactively do all that we can. You know, the United States was a big leader in the COP21 agreement from Paris almost 10 years ago, and to see us pull out of the process, and it's horrifying. It really is. It's terrible for my country. I'm embarrassed on behalf of my country, terrible for the world.
It is happening in terms of renewables worldwide. We see more and more young people in particular saying we don't want more climate destruction.